Will a federal government shutdown impact my immigration case, and will it lead to the government stopping to process my immigration case? In this video, I'm going to go over how federal government shutdowns impact immigration applications and petitions pending with various agencies. I'm going to offer some general guidance and thoughts on how government shutdowns may impact various immigration applications. First and foremost, welcome back to the channel. My name is Adrian Pandev. I'm an attorney who helps foreign nationals navigate the U.S. legal system. I really appreciate all of you tuning in. If you like the video, the content, please click the like button and subscribe to the channel and follow me. It helps me tremendously, and most importantly, it keeps me motivated to post these videos. Now, let's jump right into today's topic of discussion, which is government shutdowns. Now, the first thing that needs to be considered is that the immigration system in the US involves several different agencies, and each of those agencies are funded differently. They perform different acts, and depending on what they exactly do will impact how government shutdowns will change their operations. So I'm going to go one by one and address whether or not a particular agency is impacted by a federal government shutdown. So let's start first with the U.S. Department of State. So this is DOS. This is the agency tasked with overseeing all of our consular embassy posts across the world. And this is the agency that issues U.S. visas or passports and other documents at various U.S. embassies and consulates outside the country. Now, DOS, the Department of State, collects visa fees for each and every application for a visa. It doesn't matter if it's a visitor B1, B2 visa or an employment-based H1B, O1, etc. visa or an immigrant visa. There's fees associated with them. So the actual visa processing should not be impacted by a government shutdown because it's fee funded. So the agency, Department of State, continues to collect the fees and they continue to issue the visas. So visa issuance itself should not be impacted by a government shutdown, again, because it's fee funded. Now, that being said, a prolonged government shutdown could impact the budget of the specific consulate, the specific mission. And what that could lead to is reduced capacity to operate normally, which in turn could impact visa issuance because in order to issue those visas, the specific consular post does need to receive the funding and the requisite requirements to operate properly. Generally speaking, this becomes a problem only during prolonged government shutdowns where the particular mission or State Department cannot get the relevant funding to run its wider operation properly. It is less of an issue during shorter couple-week, couple-day government shutdowns. So the summary is, when it comes to Department of State, visa processing, passport processing is fee-funded. So those applications should continue to move forward unless there is a wider impact where agency budgets are impacted. So now let's talk about the Department of Justice, which is another agency often involved in the immigration process. So the Department of Justice, specifically EOIR, the Executive Office of Immigration Review, manages immigration courts. So when we talk about deportation proceedings, removal, that is handled by the DOJ. Also, the Board of Immigration Appeals also falls under the DOJ. So appeals for certain USCIS petitions and other cases end up under the jurisdiction of the DOJ. And basically, the DOJ is not fee funded. It is paid for by, call it, tax dollars. And this is one of those agencies where it's government shutdown to government shutdown. It will depend on whether or not case processing will slow down. As long as the particular employees or particular departments are treated as essential, then they will remain open even during a shutdown. If they're not deemed essential by the government, then they will work at reduced capacities. So in the current government shutdown, October 2025, all DOJ operations are essentially treated as essential. And what that means is the immigration courts are still open, cases are being processed. This applies to both detained and non-detained dockets at immigration courts. But in future shutdowns, this could change, and it wasn't always the case. It wasn't always the non-detained cases were deemed essential. Perhaps the most commonly associated agency with immigration is the Department of Homeland Security, which has 3 sub-agencies: the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, which adjudicates petitions and applications for immigration benefits, whether it's green card applications or applications for non-immigrant visa statuses, etc. Then you have Customs and Border Protection, CBP, which handles immigration enforcement at the border, so entry and exits at the border. And finally, you have Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, which handles immigration enforcement inside the country. So they're tasked with investigations and arresting, initiating deportation proceedings, etc., against individuals deemed to have violated their immigration status. Now, out of these 3 agencies, CBP, so Customs and Border Protection, and ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, these 2 are generally funded through, call it taxpayer money. So what happens with these agencies is that if similarly to the Department of Justice, if they're deemed non-essential, then government shutdowns would impact them significantly because they could not continue working. But generally, when there's a government shutdown, including this one in October 2025, CBP and ICE are deemed essential. And what that means is that operations are ongoing, so you can still fly into the country and go through customs. ICE is still working as well. Unlike both of these, USCIS, so U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, on the other hand, is fee-funded. That is why anytime you apply for, whether it's a permanent residence application or it's some kind of status change or extension of status with USCIS, you have to include filing fees. And those filing fees actually fund USCIS. So what that means is the government shutdown does not impact USCIS because the agency is fee-funded, unlike other agencies where unless the workers are deemed essential, they would have to shut down. So the bottom line is, and this is perhaps most important for many of you watching this video, USCIS is open and working, and field offices are working, service centers are working, and immigration petitions and applications are being adjudicated. So there should be no specific delays on the vast majority of immigration cases because of this. Now, the final agency that comes up in immigration processes is the Department of Labor. And the Department of Labor comes in when it comes to labor condition application LCAs, which are a critical component of H-1B and E-3 visas, as well as the PERM labor certification process, which is a critical component of EB-2, EB-3 green cards. And it also comes in with the prevailing wage determinations, which is a critical component of the labor certification process. So for several immigration applications, the Department of Labor plays a critical role. And similarly to DOJ and CBP and ICE, it is not fee-funded, so it's affected by the government shutdown. But unfortunately, these workers, DOL's mission and workers when it comes to immigration is not deemed essential and shuts down. So while I'm recording this video, because there's a government shutdown happening, all the Department of Labor websites are shut down and they just show that they're under maintenance. So there's no way to file any LCAs, any prevailing wage determinations, any PERM labor certifications, or any cases already filed have already, that DOL has stopped from working on those cases and processing has come to a full standstill. So the biggest impact of this, besides delaying labor certifications and any cases that have to run through the Department of Labor, they could impact cases pending with USCIS, specifically H-1Bs or E-3s filed with USCIS or the Department of State, because they have that critical LCA, labor condition application process. Without a certified LCA, the cases cannot be approved by USCIS. So although the main petitions are filed with USCIS, because you cannot get the relevant Department of Labor certification, it stalls the cases. So the bottom line, to summarize all this, is that Department of State generally fee funded, so visa applications are still open for processing. USCIS is also fee funded, so open for processing, and they're working on cases. Department of Justice, ICE, and CBP are not fee funded, but they're deemed essential. So they're at this moment, October 2025, working. This may be different with future government shutdowns. And the Department of Labor is not fee funded and deemed non-essential. So it's stopped working and is no longer processing cases. So depending on which agency your case is with, that will impact whether or not there's going to be delays or any impact on your immigration case. Generally, because at this moment, all agencies are either fee funded or deemed essential, the biggest problem is the Department of Labor, which has brought H-1Bs, any new H-1B petitions, E-3s, as well as anything related to PERM labor certifications, to a standstill while we wait for the government shutdown. My general advice to everyone with this is to monitor the situation, be aware of this, and know that if you're applying for anything, labor certification related, H-1Bs, E-3s, know that your case is impacted. So be reaching out to your immigration advisor so you can develop a good, robust plan of attack. Also, anyone can be reaching out to their congressman, right, and be communicating to the government that this is impacting their lives and that they would like to see a resolution. Now, obviously, anyone in a non-immigrant status is not allowed to vote because they're not a U.S. citizen, but employers who are often filing these petitions are U.S. entities, and they often have, U.S. managers, etc. So they can also reach out. So employers can also push the government. The general strategy, case by case, is going to depend on exactly what the deadlines are and the cutoffs. Often when a deadline is missed because of government shutdowns, arguments can be made that it was reasonable because it was due to a government shutdown. In other cases, often individuals will leave the country once the government reopens. Petitions are refiled and then they return once the relevant applications are approved. It's very, very case by case, and it just depends on exact deadlines and what visa or what specific petition application the individual is applying for. My general take with government shutdowns, just from this is not the first government shutdown I'm working through, is that there's really not much you can do with it but wait for it to resolve. And ideally, these happen in the fall. You can plan ahead and try to file everything possible with the Department of Labor before the shutdown. That helps because at least you're getting the cases in on time. But then other than that, there's very little you can do. The key thing is that if any cases you're waiting on action, to move as quickly as possible once the government reopens. So even though the government may not be processing a case, if you can get a case completely ready for filing with the Department of Labor, so you can get LCAs, PERMs, prevailing wages, etc., ready for filing the moment it reopens, you can really catch up on any time lost because you used the time while the government's shut down to actually prepare and move cases forward. Bottom line again, at this current October 2025 moment, cases that are related or involved the Department of Labor are the ones that are most impacted and are the ones that are going to get delayed and are the ones that are not getting processed. If you have any questions or comments related to any of this, please post them in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to record more videos. Thank you so much for watching.